How's everybody doing tonight? This is Ken for the Information Nation on Ryan Talk Radio, RyanTalkRadio.com, TheInformationNation.com. I want to thank everybody for listening tonight. I know a lot of you have plenty of things planned. We have Memorial Day tomorrow, a day when we remember our war dead. You know, and that's kind of where I wanted to start tonight. You know, when you think of the people who have died in all the wars that we've had in this country, we've had, going all the way back to the War for Independence, and you think back then that people that were dying in those wars were 16, 17 years old, some of them even younger, and they died to get this country started. But they answered a call, the same call that we should all be answering today, because we have problems. We have a lot of problems. And those problems, they've been stemming back a number of years. And so we're going to play Connect the Dots tonight. We're not going to include all the dots because I can't stay awake that long and Jimmy won't give me that much airtime. But let's start with 9/11. And no, this is not a show about 9/11. This is about connecting the dots. On 9/11, a group of people who lived in the desert and in caves and were basically sheep herders hijacked 4 aircraft and in a highly coordinated assault, took out the Twin Towers. One of them was such a good pilot that he did something that professional pilots couldn't even do, and that was high-speed, low-level into the Pentagon. One plane was driven into the ground. And not only did the Twin Towers come down, but Building 7 came down just out of sheer fear. You know, it was so scared it says, oh, to heck with this, and it fell down all by its lonesome. Doing things that have never been done in history before, a steel frame building collapsing upon itself, even with a fire going on. It's never happened before. So it just goes to show you there was a first there. From that, we had President Bush, who was saying, don't believe the conspiracy theorists. We know they're all going to be out there, but don't believe them. You know, believe what I tell you. Just shut up and believe what I tell you. So people did. A lot of people believed exactly the government line on what was told about 9/11, just like they believed the government line on what went on at Oklahoma City, at Waco, at Ruby Ridge. They always believed the government line. Just after that, guess what we got? We got that wonderful thing called the Patriot Act. Yeah, everybody's, oh, yeah, I want to be safe, Daddy. I want to be safe. Keep me safe, Daddy. So they did. They took away your rights, and they came up with the Patriot Act. They can spy on you now without needing a warrant. That's pretty good. I mean, you know, they got exactly after 9/11 what Hitler got after the Reichstag fire, which was total control. And from that, we also got the Department of Homeland Security. Yes. And they're going to keep us safe. And they started by keeping us safe by doing all the things and little things in the airport, you know, like take off your belt, take off your shoes. And now it's take off your belt, take off your shoes, remove your dignity. But they moved right on into controlling the population. Now, one of the reasons I'm talking about this tonight is because I want you to know what kind of a concentration camp you're living in. That's right, I said a concentration camp. You are not living in a free country. You haven't for years. And they are slowly tightening their grip on the American people. So anyhow, they went and they got this Homeland Security thing going, and then it was the Homeland Security, oh, well, we've got to straighten things out. So all the agencies in the government are now going to communicate. They're all coming under the hats of Homeland Security. So the FBI, the CIA, which has their charter does not allow them to operate within the confines of the United States, within the borders. They're doing it anyhow. You have the FBI, CIA, Homeland Security, total sexual assault, the TSA. I mean, they're all one big happy family. And if you're not part of their family, you're part of the enemy. So as we continue, They went from having you take off your belt and your shoes and putting them on a conveyor, and putting your packages up there and getting them x-rayed until now the point where you have become the package, you get x-rayed, and then they turn around and jam their hand down the front of your pants to see what your fudgies are like. Think of it this way. Do you think you would be arrested if you were walking down the street in your hometown with your hand stuffed in the front of your pants playing with your fudgies? I'm pretty darn sure that some police officer would come by, some Barney Fife would come by and go, "What are you doing?" And you could always tell him, "Hey, I'm playing that TSA game, fondle my fudgies," and see what in the heck he says. What can he say? Well, that's indecent. No, it can't be indecent. The federal government's allowed to do it in an airport, in public. They can stick their hand down my pants and they can play with my fudgies. So I'm playing with my fudgies. They're mine. It would be interesting. I'm not recommending you do it, but I'm just saying it would be an interesting concept. So anyhow, then, we receive such wonderful things like the NDAA. Popeye was talking about this because they've got troops down in Florida somewhere playing war games, American troops, Australian troops, and who even knows how many other troops. And Popeye was saying, well, they can't do this. Posse Comitatus. Posse Comitatus was killed with the NDAA. You no longer have it. Nor do you have the right to the Fourth Amendment protections. All of this stuff has been taken away from you. And now the clamps are being put on because what are we getting now? We're getting cameras. It started with Alan Funt. He'd say, "You're on candid camera." Not anymore, man. You're on camera all the time. You walk down the street, you're on a camera. You go into a restaurant, you're on a camera. You go to work, you're on a camera. You get into a taxi cab, you're on a camera. You talk to a cop, you're on a camera. It's cameras, cameras, cameras. There's cameras everywhere. See, that way they have to limit the amount of prison guards that they have because they have cameras. So they throw one prison guard in a room with maybe 35, 40, 50 monitors, and he looks at all of them, and he's just keeping track of everybody. They have one now in Washington, D.C., where when you pull into the District of Columbia or the District of Criminals, depending on how you want to look at it, their camera picks up your license plate number, and they can track you at any time, no matter where you are at. All they have to do is type in your license plate number. Boom, if a camera sees you, you're popped right up on screen. So they can track you everywhere you go. So don't ever hang your license plate from the back of your pants. They'll follow you everywhere. You'll go into the bathroom. There'll be a camera sticking over the top looking at you. But this is the type of concentration camp you have now. You have a total concentration camp. But people don't see it because there are not guards on every street with guns yet. But it's coming. If you don't think so, what do you think was going on down in Florida? They're getting ready to really put the screws to the American people. And the call is going out to people to stand up against them. And I'm not saying, run down the street with your guns a-blazing, but what I am saying is resistance. There has to be resistance to this tyranny. Because if we don't stop this, your kids are going to be nothing more than little snitches. They're going to go to school and they're going to turn in Billy and Bobby and Johnny and Jane and Joan. They're going to turn them all in. And then the teacher's going to say, "Well, what did your mommy and daddy do?" "Yeah, they did." And they're going to turn you in without even knowing it. Without even knowing it. These people are scum of the worst kind. They will play on a child's mind to get information. Hey, this is Ken for the Information Nation. You've just heard the first segment of my radio show. If you would like to hear the entire radio show, you can hear it at theinformationnation.com. Click on Show Podcasts and you'll find it there. Or if you'd like to take it with you, go to iTunes and hit podcasts and search The Information Nation. You can download it there to your iPad or your iPod or to your cell phone and listen to it at your convenience. I want to thank you very much for listening. Once again, this is Ken for The Information Nation on Orion Talk Radio.